That's exactly what I was looking for. Interesting. Almonds in olives. Ha! All the way from Sicily. Once again, we are here at my favorite deli, De Laurenti, inside the Seattle's public market. I came here because I need some very special ingredients. I need some prosciutto cotto for my veal alla Norma. Then I also wanted to get some pancetta for pasta alla carbonara. And on top of it all, I'll even show you how to make some veal piccata, the way it should be made. Stay with us. Spicy just right. Veal straccetti alla Norma. Let's take this one at a time. First and foremost, let's take a look at what is the Norma. The Norma is an old Sicilian sauce that really features eggplant. What we've done, we have cut the eggplant, we have diced the eggplant, we have then sprinkled it with salt, we place it in a colander like this, and we put a weight on top of it. As you can see right here at the very bottom of it, there is an amount of juice that has accumulated. Why do we do this step? Two reasons. First, we want to make sure that the salt penetrates all the way into the eggplant. The other part is that this way it fries better. What we have in here is the oil in which we're going to fry the eggplant. Let's take a look and see if it's hot enough yet. Oh, yes it is. So we go with the rest. I'm going to add the eggplant into the oil. One of the things that this will help you enormously is that when you make it at home especially, eggplant is known all throughout to absorb an enormous amount of oil. One of the reasons why it absorbs a lot of amount of oil is because it's a sponge-like feature. I find that when I cut the eggplant in a very small dice as we've done here, and I put a little bit of salt in it and I expurgate all the additional water, it fries better and it browns better. In the same pan in which we cook the eggplant, we're going to add chopped onions. And to the chopped onions, a little bit of chopped garlic. Now, here comes the part that I like the most. We're going to lower the heat to medium, medium-low. You're going to let this cook for about 3 to 4 minutes until the onion almost reduced to a cream-like state. Then the next flavors that we want to add are very important. We put a little bit of red pepper flakes for heat. Just a pinch will do. Dry oregano to stay with the Sicilian character of the dish. And as it toasts together with the onion and the garlic, it really opens it up to a whole new flavor. Then, because I know the fact that sometimes tomatoes can be acidic, I put a tiny bit of sugar. What the sugar will do will not make it super, super sweet. It's just going to open it up. And remember, I just put a little pinch of it in there. And there is one last thing I'm going to do. Basil. You can chop it up. What I do is the way Grandma used to do it. Break it with my own fingers and I add it to it. The importance of adding the herbs so early in the process is to let the herbs toast together with all this. Now we pretty much have what we want. Next thing we do, we add a little bit of tomato sauce. We're going to get all these flavors come together, but one of the important parts when we do this sauce is to also add a little bit of chicken stock, because we want to make sure that as the sauce reduces, it does not become too gummy. One of the problems that most people have dealing with tomato sauce reducing, they let it reduce for too long, and then what happens? You have something that is as thick as wall-hanging paste. You don't want to do that. At this point, the next step that we want to do is reinsert in here the pieces of eggplant, and now we really add the making of the Norma. While the sauce is cooking here wonderfully for us, the next thing I'm going to show is how to make the veal. This veal is called straccetti. What does it mean, straccetti? It means little rags, and that is basically because of the small size of the pieces of veal that we have. They're about a 1/4 inch thick. Let me show you how to handle this. A technique that I'm about to show you is something that you've seen me do quite often, and it's something that you're going to love. In this pan here, already I have some eggs mixed with a little bit of cream. In here, instead I have Italian-style breadcrumbs. This is what we're going to do. When I put the straccetti in here, it's small enough that it can handle it all. Here we are. On both sides, you want to place the eggs. The problem that most people have, they wonder, how can I get complete and perfect coverage? So let me show you how. Here we have the awaiting pan with the breadcrumbs. The reason why I like doing this is because there is no mess and you can look like a professional when you do it. But what we want to try to do is also get a complete coverage both on the bottom and on top. How do you achieve that? The bottom part already has the breadcrumbs. Now I have some extra breadcrumbs here on the side. I'm going to add it straight right on top. And now I'm going to use the fork to make sure that they press perfectly. And here they are. Look what I do as I do it together. Two things are happening. I'm coating it perfect, and also on top of coating it perfect, I'm slightly expanding the veal. Let's make sure that the oil is very, very hot. And as soon as the veal is completely coated, we will add it to it. Let's fry our veal. This veal is going to cook quite quickly. I would say 1.5 minutes per side. That's all that you want to do. We're going to wait for it to cook on one side, and then we'll cook it on the other. See on the other side? Perfect, perfect. Cook it for another minute on the other side, and we're done. The veal is finished cooking. Now we're going to move it back in a plate with a little bit of paper on the underneath so that it absorbs the excess oil. Let this rest for just a few moments. What I have in here is an oven-proof pan, non-stick. In this, I will assemble the finished part of this dish. I'm going to take the straccetti, I'm going to place it in here. For a portion, for an average person like me, who is very vain, we are going to put on top of it two things. First, we are going to cover them with a little piece of ham. Now notice that I already cut the ham ahead of side to make sure that it will fit. This is going to save you an enormous amount of work. When you do it at home, make sure that you do that, especially if you cook for a large crowd. You're going to be able to assemble this in no time at all. Then I put the cheese on top. I'm using provolone. You can use anything that you wish. Provolone is my favorite. Notice also how the provolone cheese is perfectly cut. I have the broiler behind me perfectly heated up. I'm going to put it under the broiler. It's just going to take a couple of moments to get the perfect look, and then you'll see. Whew, here we are. Now all I have to do is assemble the dish. You're going to love this. First and foremost, always put the sauce all around the plate. What I like to do is to create a nice little puddle on top of which we're going to put the veal. I'm going to choose the 3 prettiest plates of veal. I say plates, but I meant to say pieces, right on it as it is. Here we are with our veal. One for you, one for me, and another one in here for you. Now, you could bring it out like this, but there is something else that I like to do. I like to put a little bit of arugula that I've simply dressed with salt and pepper and the finest extra virgin olive oil that you can get. And what I like to do with this arugula is to build quite a bit of height. Why? I have a friend of mine, every time she watches my show, she says, you need to build height. When you build height, it's that much more important. You know who you are. You know who you are. This is for you. Signori e signori, straccetti of veal with sauce alla Norma. Hi Kylie, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I love all the selection that you have, but you gotta teach me something. Come on, what is the difference between all these greens?
We have a few different lettuces. We have red ball jet, cougar Batavian, and an oak leaf. The cougar Batavian's an interesting one. It's a summer crisp, and it's kind of like a romaine and an iceberg. So it's sweet and crunchy.
Never heard of it before.
Yeah, we also have some salad mixes, which have a few different ingredients. We have a spicy one that has mustard and curly cress in it to make it spicy. And then, of course, we have arugula.
The green curly kale, how do you handle this? I mean, I only know to saute it. Usually your customers, what do they do with it?
Sauteing is great. It's also great for kale chips. Throwing it in the oven with a little olive oil.
So to dry it out?
Yeah.
I had it at some restaurant. Lacinato kale?
Yes.
I've only read about this. What's the character on this one?
This one's sweet, and I think it's easier to cook with because the curly, you chop it up and you have little pieces everywhere, and the lacinato is a flatter leaf.
I love that.
That is our rainbow chard.
Listen, this is too much fun. Let me have a couple of bags of arugula because I got some friends over and that's what I want to do.
All right.
This is fun. Thank you so much
You're
for this.
welcome.
Next, Nick shows us how to prepare veal cutlet with piccata sauce.
Veal cutlet with piccata sauce. This is the boss' favorite dish. I should actually call her by her first name, but she doesn't like her first name, so I give her the nickname Boss. She knows who she is, and she loves me. As a matter of fact, every time we get together, she always asks me, Nick, would you make me the piccata? Yes, when I come home, it'll be the first thing I do for you. Right now, I want to show you what to do with it. The easiest thing to do is to make the sauce. In the pan where we have some nice hot olive oil, we add a little bit of the onions. We're going to stir this. When you do this at home, at this point, reduce the heat to medium-low and let this cook for about 4 minutes. After 4 minutes, the onions will have softened significantly. The next thing we do, we add some garlic, also roughly same cut as the chopped onions were. There are two ways of approaching this. One way of approaching this would be to actually cut the onion super fine and the garlic chop it up so you have a nice smooth sauce. This is a little bit more country style and I love it. The next additions are things that you're going to love. First, we want to deglaze everything with a little bit of white wine. The white wine is going to deglaze all the little bit that has been at the bottom. The next thing that we want to do, I want to add lemon juice. Do not use fake lemon juice. Please do me a favor, just buy a lemon, squeeze it. The difference is enormous. As a matter of fact, I think that the lemon juice that you get from real lemon has a much more satisfying flavor. Between the wine and the lemon juice, now we have what we want. We're gonna cook this until it reduces down to a glaze. The next addition is optional. You can do it at the end or you can do it at the beginning. Right now I feel like doing it at the beginning. It's a little bit of parsley. I love for the parsley to cook, being part of the base, give its own flavor. Stir it just a little bit. The wine and the lemon have evaporated, but they left an imprint below. And now we add some chicken stock. And the chicken stock at this point is gonna make our sauce. I'm gonna bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to simmer it until it reaches sauce consistency. The next and final addition, the key to this flavor, is the capers. Now, I would like to spend just a quick moment talking about the capers. When you do add the capers, what you do want to do, you want to drain them, wash them with water, and get rid of as much as possible of the brine that they have. Otherwise, they're going to make the sauce way too tart. I have a few friends who made that mistake, so here it is for you. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to deal with the veal. The veal, we have a few veal scallopini that we pounded thin already. We are going to pepper and salt on the side. We're going to put it in flour as this. Now, this is very important. Watch this. Once we put the flour in, before we add it to the hot oil, I want you to get rid of all the extra flour. You're going to have them perfectly coated. The reason why we do this is because if you don't do it, the flour will go to the bottom of the pan with a very hot oil, and it will burn, and it will ruin the flavor of everything. So this is a small thing, very important for you to do. What I find also is that before I put them in, there's a little trick that I kind of learned on my own, and I learned it by mistake. The first time I did this is I forgot to do it, and then I added at the last moment. But I've learned that if you do add the pepper at the very end, the pepper will stick as a flavor component to it. So I put it on both sides, and it has even a greater flavor. Now, there's a lot of people that don't like pepper, so if you don't like it, this is not a must. This is just to show you something to do. Let's check and make sure that the oil is hot enough. Yes, it is. You can see it shimmering. When you see the oil shimmering, is at the best. The oil that I like to use is extra light olive oil. It has a wonderful aroma, and it's very effective for this. Always add it so that when the veal ends up in there, whatever splash there is away from you. This oil is very, very hot, so please be careful when you make this at home. You simply want to cook this for a minute, minute and a half per side, and then we're going to finish it in the sauce. Now we're ready to turn it. The last thing we're going to do, we're going to finish the meat straight into the sauce, and then we're going to plate it. We're ready to plate. This goes well with a wonderful dollop of mashed potatoes. I like mine nice and soft, just like this. Then we're going to place our scallopini right on our plate. And here we go. We're going to put them in a nice little fanning motion. The next thing that most people do, they like to add the sauce, and they just put it right out of the pan. Me, I want to make this a masterpiece, and this is what I love, when the sauce goes right on top of it. This is the thickness that I like. I like to have all of these pieces going all the way around, and here you are. Scallopini, veal cutlet with a piccata sauce, made in the style of the lady that I love the most, my mother-in-law, who I call the boss. And she always says, Nick, can I have a little bit of parsley on top? And I say, signora, ma sì, certamente, non c'è problema. And there you are. Just like the boss likes it. Pat, I need your advice. I am making pasta alla carbonara. I see that you have a couple of stesa, una rotolata. Which one would you propose to go with? And what's the difference between these guys?
We've got a couple. The Emilia Romagna and Leoncini pancetta, it's got a little bit of smoke to it. You got to make sure you slice off that skin a little bit because it acts like popcorn on the skillet. But you know, let's go with California. Molinari's been doing it for over 100 years. It's a beautiful, well spiced.
You know what?
Perfect.
I know the company. I like this particular cut. It's got exactly what I want, not too much fat. Let me have a couple of pounds, and if you wouldn't mind, when you cut them, I would like to have them cut the thickness of a finger, about a 3/4 of an inch.
Fantastic.
Because I want to cut it in dice. It's going to be a lot easier for me to cook.
You got it.
A couple of pounds will do.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Next, Nick shows us how to prepare pasta alla carbonara.
Pasta alla carbonara is by far one of my favorites. The best pasta alla carbonara is in the city of Rome. And to be exact, in the restaurant, La Carbonara. Dario is a friend of mine. If you go there, tell him I say hi. However, I'm about to do a recipe with a couple of little changes Stellino style. And I want to show you and share with you all the tricks on how to make this at home perfect every time you make it. We have to start first and foremost with a pancetta. This is a pancetta. Now, pancetta, what we want to do is dice it. One of the things I want to show you is every time you buy the pancetta, you see, this is the outer part of the belly, and these are the other pieces on the inside. There's nothing wrong with it, but this is truly how the pancetta is made. What I do at this point, I cut it in small pieces, and the pieces that I like to cut them is so that there is some resiliency to it. You can do this with bacon if you don't have pancetta in the neighborhood where you live. But bacon and pancetta are two completely different things. There's a flavor to pancetta that you will never see in bacon. The reason why I cut it in big pieces like this is because it has a little amount of chewability to it, meaning that it will brown on the outside, it will render its fat, and then the inside is going to be this wonderful crispiness, and you'll see, it's awesome. There's a lot of fat in pancetta, so you don't need much to get it going. What I like to do is to put just a little bit of oil in the pan, just a little bit so the pancetta starts to cook. And then you want to cook this until it becomes nice and brown. I'm going to add a little bit more than I chopped before you guys came. Here we are. Let's stir it attentively. You don't want to do this with high heat. When I do it at home, it's about medium heat that you want to get started. You can see that the pieces of pancetta are starting to pick up a little bit of color. This is a good time for us to get started with the pasta. We've got the water going. I'm going to put the pasta in the water, and we're going to continue with our pancetta. The pancetta is starting to get to the point that we like. At this point, what I like to do is to add the onions, and the onions is an addition that is not in the traditional carbonara recipe. So if you want to make this carbonara recipe exactly the way in which it's made in Rome, the onion is not something that you want to add. To me, the onion adds a wonderful additional flavor, and so I chop them very fine. And they also do something else for me. They pick up the oil that's being released by the pancetta, and the oil released by the pancetta, the fat, is full of flavor. Pork fat, in my opinion, is God's gift to man. It's wonderful. Together with this, I'm going to make another addition. The addition that I make, I would like to qualify as a Stellino enhancement. When you do it for yourself at home, if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, this should not be done. But if you come to my house, this is how we do it. And we put a little bit of garlic. Because of the fact that we're going to cook this until everything is nicely softened and all the fat is rendered, I like to cut the garlic on the thick side. Also, for those of you who have Sicilian relatives at this point, whatever it is that we cook, even if it was to be making ice cream, we only add a little bit of red pepper flakes. Red pepper flakes and Nick Stellino go hand in hand together. When you were not looking, I took some of the hot water from the pasta, and I'm going to show you what I do with this. This is the most important addition in the making of pasta alla carbonara. What I like to do in the eggs are several additions. The reason why I like to add the pasta water is it's going to temper the eggs, because ultimately we're going to be making the sauce exclusively with the eggs. And this will prevent the eggs from overcooking and becoming scrambled eggs in the making of the sauce. So a little bit of pasta water goes a long way. Also, the pasta water is full of starch. It's the starch that's been shed during the cooking process, and it thickens up just about everything that we do. But this is the best part. And the best part is cheese. The cheese that's properly used for this is Pecorino Romano. When I make this at home, unfortunately, my wife always forces me to put Parmigiano. No, that's bad with Parmigiano. Parmigiano is great, but it's not the proper way. However, every once in a while, for my birthday, my wife lets me make it with Pecorino Romano. I'm a very lucky man. And here we are. Well, we're just about ready to make something wonderful happen. One last addition that I like to do at this point is to add pepper. I like to put the pepper in here, and I might put even a little bit more in the end. We're ready to go. Let me check this. Eh sì, siamo pronti, stiamo bene. Così si fa. And I'm gonna take the pasta and we're gonna add it into our sauce. Ooh. Now, first thing that you want to do before you add anything, you want to make sure that the pasta toasts a little bit and cooks nice and hot in the making of the carbonara in the pan in which we have all the other ingredients. Why? Come why? We have all the flavors in here. The pasta that's just out of the water, you know, it's being blanched of all the flavor. We want for the pasta to absorb and pick up all these flavors. And then, while the pasta is doing this, we add our mixture with the eggs. When you do this, you gotta cook and you got to move quite quickly. You gotta move quite quickly, because if you don't, you end up with scrambled eggs. At this point, you're preventing the scrambled eggs from solidifying. As you see it, it's almost like a wonderful creaminess that we're doing. Turn off the heat. There is enough heat left in the pasta and in the pan to really make the perfect sauce. Eh sì, è bravo. You don't need to use all the eggs. You got to use your eye, make sure... Oh, sì, sì. Abbiamo fatto altro che. Questo è un capolavoro. When I get excited, I only speak Italian. And here we go. First and foremost, a nice bit of pasta right in here. A little bit of pasta right in there. And then this is the part where most people go, hey, what do I do next? And I tell them, scusami, ma la pancetta, what are you going to do with the pancetta? I want you to put all the pancetta that's left behind, put it right in there. This pancetta is the money shot in this dish. And when you bite into it, you will not be able to resist it. The last addition is a little bit of pepper, just because it's traditional. And you put it all the way around, just like this. I should give it to you now. I should serve it to you. I am tempted to take this bite and finish it for myself, but you're a guest on my show. And on the Nick Stellino show, we make sure that our viewers get everything right. So, pasta alla carbonara, just for you. And here it is. It was my personal pleasure to have you in my kitchen and to share with you some of my favorite recipes, especially my favorite pasta, pasta alla carbonara. Hope you will make it for your friends and for your family, and you will always think of me. Ciao a tutti. Is there another way to actually peel tomatoes without having to blanch them? Let me show you how. Take your tomato and cut it in half. Then, cut it in quarters. Take the seeds out. Careful with the knife. Then, placing the blade of the knife right at the very tip, catch it underneath the skin and move slowly, surely, until all of the skin is gone. And this is how you peel a tomato.